In the dead of winter, when the snow piled so high it buried the door of a Viking longhouse, a family might wake up and find one bed empty. No tracks outside, no broken latch, no screaming, just a place where a person used to be. And in the worst stories, the missing person was not taken by wolves. They were taken by someone who had already died. The Vikings had a word for this thing. Draugr, not a ghost, not a spirit, not a floating sheet, a corpse, a dead body that got up and walked home. And the more you learn about Viking life, the more you understand why they were afraid. Because for half the year, the world outside the firelight was basically trying to kill them. We like to imagine Vikings as fearless. The axe, the beard, the long ship, the screaming man charging into battle. But then the sun goes down, and suddenly, that same warrior is lying awake in a smoky wooden room, listening to something scrape against the wall. The Vikings feared the dead so much that funerals were full of tricks. Carry the corpse feet first so it could not see the path home. Cover the face so the dead eyes could not remember the road. Tie the feet so if the body woke up, it would stumble. Because to them, death was not always an ending. Sometimes it was a delay. A bad man could come back. A greedy man could come back. A violent man could come back. And if he did not politely haunt a corner. He smashed doors. He killed livestock. He crushed people in their beds. The Viking were not floating around saying boo. They were breaking into the house. To understand this fear, you have to imagine Viking winter. Not it gets dark at 5 p.m. winter. A deep northern winter. A world where the day feels like a rumor. The longhouse was not a cozy fantasy cabin. It was dark. It was crowded. It was smoky. The fire burned in the middle, and the smoke crawled upward through gaps in the roof. Sometimes it left. Sometimes it stayed. People slept close together. Animals might be nearby. The walls creaked. The wind screamed. The roof groaned under snow. And outside there was nothing but black. In Norse myth, even the sun was not safe. The sun was being chased. Huge wolves, Skull and Hati, hunted the sun and moon across the sky. And at the end of the world, they would finally catch them. So, when winter swallowed the light, it did not just feel cold, it felt cosmic. Like the wolves were winning. And if you walked beyond the firelight, the dark belonged to other things. Trolls, giants, creatures from the mountains and forests. Things that could tear a man apart, but could not survive the sun. That was the rule of the night. Stay inside. Keep the fire alive. Do not open the door. But the worst part is, you did not have to go outside to be attacked. The horror could come while you were asleep. They called it the Mara. It came in the night. It climbed onto your body. It sat on your chest, and suddenly, you could not move. You could not breathe. You could not scream. Today, we call this sleep paralysis. Your brain wakes up before your body does. You feel trapped. You feel watched. Sometimes you even see a figure in the room. But in the Viking world, this was not a medical event. This was an attack. A night demon was riding your chest. And this is where the word nightmare comes from. Not from horses, from the mare. The thing that comes in the night. Imagine waking up in the blackest part of winter, unable to move, hearing the house creak, seeing smoke crawl across the ceiling, and feeling something heavy pressing down on your lungs. You would believe too, but even the Mara was not the worst thing. The worst thing had a name: Glommer. In one Icelandic saga, Glommer was a huge Swedish shepherd hired to watch a haunted farm. He was strong, ugly, rude, and exactly the kind of man who thinks every warning is for someone else. One winter night, Glommer went out into the storm. He did not come back. When they found him, his body was black-blue, swollen, and horrible to look at. They tried to move him. They could not, so they buried him where he lay. That was a mistake, because Glommer came back. At night, he haunted the farm. He killed animals. He drove people mad. He climbed onto the roof of the house and slammed his dead heels against the beams until the whole building shook. This is such a good horror image that it barely needs improving. A corpse riding your roof like a horse, a dead man using your house as a drum. Finally, the hero Grettir came to fight him. Grettir was one of those saga heroes who could wrestle monsters, survive ambushes, and basically ruin anyone's day. He fought Glommer in the dark. The corpse was impossibly strong. The house shook. The moon disappeared behind clouds. And when Grettir finally dragged him outside and broke him, the moonlight came back. But Glommer's dead eyes were open, and with his last breath, the corpse cursed him. From that moment on, Grettir would be unlucky, alone, doomed, and worst of all, afraid of the dark. The man who killed the monster could never escape the night again. Most people stayed inside, but not everyone. Some people walked out into the darkness on purpose. They called it sitting out, utiseta. A seeress could go out alone, sit on a burial mound and wait. No fire, no family, no locked door. Just a person sitting on top of the dead in the freezing dark, trying to hear what the buried knew. That is the difference between fear and power. The farmer hears the dead and hides. The seeress hears the dead and asks questions. Inside the longhouse, ordinary people had their own weapon against the dark. Noise, stories, boasting, insults, flighting. Flighting was basically a poetic insult battle. A warrior did not just need a quick sword, but he also needed a quick mouth. You stood in front of everyone and attacked another man's courage, his honor, family, face, beard, and possibly smell. And if you froze, you were humiliated. If you answered well, you won status. In a world where the dark outside felt alive, the hall became a theater. A place where humans screamed back at the night. At the darkest point of the year came Yule, not the modern cozy version, not cookies and sweaters. Older Yule was fire, drinking, animal sacrifice, feasting, and bargaining with the gods for another year of survival. In some rituals, animal blood was collected and sprinkled on walls, altars, and people. The meat was cooked. The cups went around the fire. Everyone ate, everyone drank, everyone tried to pull the sun back. This was not just partying, it was a survival machine. Food against hunger, fire against cold, noise against silence, community against fear. And in those halls, men made promises. Promises to win glory, promises to take revenge, promises to cross the sea. The raids that terrified Europe did not begin on the ocean. They began here, in the dark, around the fire, with a room full of frightened people daring each other to be brave. But Courage was not enough. An axe does not cross an ocean. A man does not raid England by wanting it badly. Something had to carry him there. The ship gets all the attention, the dragon head, the carved wood, the long hull slicing through waves. But the real engine of the Viking Age was not the wood, it was the sail. In the sail was wool. That means the Viking Age was powered by sheep and by women spinning thread in the dark. A single large sail could require an absurd amount of wool, yarn, weaving, finishing, and labor. Before the ship could terrify a monastery, someone had to shear the sheep, clean the wool, comb it, spin it, weave it, treat it, sew it. The woodwork was fast compared to the cloth. The sail was the nightmare. Thousands and thousands of hours, not one heroic moment, just hands, fingers, smoke, cold, repetition. That is the part of Viking history that almost never gets told in the movie trailer. A warrior can swing an axe for 10 seconds and become a legend, but someone had to spin for months so he could get there. Take away the sail, and the Viking is not a sea raider. He is just an angry man near a fjord. So when you picture the Viking Age, do not start with a battle. Start with the room, a dark, wooden room, a smoky fire, a storm outside, a body tied before burial so it would not walk home, a child waking from a nightmare, unable to move, a shepherd's corpse stomping on the roof, a woman